Hello and welcome. This is just a quick video on how to navigate your textbook for my class called Fresh Voices. So you do need to, unfortunately, purchase this textbook. It's not very expensive at all, but when you do purchase it, you'll have access forever. It's not going to be a document that expires or dies or anything like that. So it's a good resource to have in your back pocket, especially if you plan on taking English 145 within the next 2 quarters, which I do recommend that you do, because then you can simply reuse the textbook for the following quarters if your English 145 instructor assigns this book. So you do need to buy it, as I mentioned. Once you buy it, then you're going to go to the Hayden McNeil website and you'll click on My Shelf. When you get there, you're going to have all of your textbooks that you've purchased through Hayden McNeil. Maybe you have more for your other classes, I'm not sure. And what I recommend doing is having this page up at all times as during my class, so just have it as its own separate tab. And the reason for that is when you do click Start Reading, every once in a while the textbook itself will expire and it will say, you know how Netflix will stop and say, are you still watching? That's essentially what happens with this textbook. So having this page up, the My Shelf page up, is really helpful so you don't have to continuously re-log into Hayden McNeil because this page itself does not expire. All right, so once you click Start Reading, which is what I just did, it's going to take you to Fresh Voices, the textbook. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a few things that I want you to note. You can zoom in and out. So if you wanted to see the whole cover and how pretty it is, you can zoom out or zoom in if it helps for you to read the finer text. You can make it full screen, which I always recommend doing. The more tabs that you have up, the more distracting it will be. So I do recommend making it full screen so you can focus every part of your energy on doing your readings. This is a really great bookmark feature. If you want to bookmark a page, then it will show up in your bookmarks tab that I'll go over in a second. And if you have any kind of, if you need any additional assistance, what you can do is actually have the screen recorder play each one of the texts for you. So a voice that sounds very similar to Siri will actually read the text for you. So that's an additional kind of perk of having this in the online space, so that you click the play button if you wanted that. All right. From there, I do recommend you getting used to this section over here on the left-hand side. These 4 lines are the main menu, and it will take you to the table of contents, which is what I recommend. Earlier when I mentioned bookmarks, here's your bookmark page, and so that's a really helpful component if you wanted to bookmark particular pages that you're working with, especially if you want to use it for your own papers. All right, so if you click on table of contents, it's going to give you all the table of contents for this class, but I recommend clicking on it again so you can actually see what it looks like in the textbook itself. So say one of the readings that I assign is something called How to Handshake by Michelle Wall on page 43. There are 2 ways for you to get there. The first way is for you to go to this table of contents page and click How to Handshake. These are clickable links, which is really helpful for navigating the textbook. So I'll click on that. Take you right there. And then the other option that you have is in this upper left kind of center section, you can insert the page number. So I did mention it was page 43. You click that and it would take you directly to this page. So those are the 2 ways to get there. What's great about Fresh Voices is that every single one of the essays that is in it is done by a Cal Poly student. So Michelle Wall probably got an A on this paper in her class, not necessarily, maybe she didn't, but she still wanted to get her work published. She went through the steps of applying to Fresh Voices, the editors liked it, and they accepted it, which means that Michelle Wall for the rest of her life is going to have a publication in her resume, which looks really, really good. So if you get an A on any of the papers in my class, or if you're really proud of them, I highly encourage you to apply for Fresh Voices. And it's an extra incentive to read a little bit closer and to study the style of each one of these essays that did get selected for Fresh Voices. But I do want to reiterate that Fresh Voices essays did not necessarily get an A in their did not necessarily receive an A, but they did well enough to be selected to be published for Fresh Voices. All right. So that is that. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention for you. Okay, so if you wanted to search for something, say you wanted to search for every instance where someone talked about MLA format, you're going to click this search button up here and write MLA. And all of a sudden, every single instance of MLA being mentioned in the textbook is going to pop up, and there's quite a few of them. And then again, they're clickable information, so you can just click that. And this will take you to the MLA citation style section. That's a pretty useful and helpful tool, especially if you're navigating Fresh Voices quickly, say prep for a quiz or something like that. All right, what else? Let's go back to the table of contents. So let's click on Finding My Voice by Holly Matheson. All right, so again, another good paper that was selected for Fresh Voices by a Cal Poly student. So there are a few things in terms of close reading for my class. You want to close read these essays because you're going to be quizzed on them, and then also simply because you're going to be wanting to pay attention to the different intricacies of each one of the readings that make them good papers. So ways to close read in an online space. Ideally, it would be a physical book, but because of the current situation, online is the second best that we can do. So reading online has a few kind of perks to it. One is that, say you want to highlight this, this hook. Let's see. Once you highlight something, this really helpful tab pops up. And you can do a variety of things. One is you can add a note. I want you to get used to using this feature. It's very helpful. What I recommend doing is adding a note for every paragraph and summarizing the paragraph in your margins, and that's going to help you really prepare for the quizzes quickly. So note, hook, and then say I thought it was an effective hook. So I'd write effective because, etc. I'd save it, and then as I'm going and reviewing each of the essays before I take the quiz, I can just click on this note in the corner and say, oh yeah, I remember thinking that this was an effective note. So it's a really helpful tool. I'm going to click on my highlight again. You can make flashcards out of it. That's not necessarily helpful for my class because it's not like this information is going to be on your midterm or final, but if flashcards are useful for you for, say, quiz prep and stuff like that, then feel free to make a flashcard. You can change the colors of your notes too, which is really helpful. So if you notice something that was not effective, you might want to highlight it in red, etc. Okay, so let's see, click back on this highlight. Copy, you can copy and paste information that's going to be helpful for when you're doing short writing assignments in my class. The citation feature is not that good. If you click it, you can see. So say you wanted to cite this essay. This is what pops up, which is just inaccurate. So I don't recommend using the citation feature in Fresh Voices. Oops. And you can delete the note that you made for yourself if it's no longer useful to you. So it's just a really helpful tab feature in terms of navigating, because I know that it's a little bit more difficult to navigate online text than it would be to thumb through a book, for example. It's just all about how you use it. So I believe that that's it. That's all that I have for you. Oh, just a quick point. As you're reading the essays, pay attention to the look here sections. They're going to refer you to other outside resources that could be helpful. And really pay attention to the consider this question. So at the end of every single essay are some consider this questions, and I may or may not draw from them as I compose my quiz questions. So think about how you'd answer some of these, and that might be helpful for any kind of assignment that you have in my class. All right, so I think that that's all that I have for you. If you have any questions for me, please let me know, and good luck using Fresh Voices. I'm excited to explore it with you.